Todd.
It's the wind in a Western movie.
What are you doing exactly?
Getting ready to pass out, actually. Woofda. This is Wretched Radio. I'm just calming myself, don't you know, because that's the latest technique for anxiety, for finding joy, and apparently, if my observations are correct, raising children. This is Wretched Radio. So there we are. It's a lovely Saturday. Mrs. Friel and I walking about town, having parked in a ramp. We walked into said ramp, and in the distance, we can hear wailing. That's right, a lot of screaming without tears. You know, the way an increasing number of children seem to behave in public places these days, I can just... My spidey sense recognizes there's a kid who doesn't need to be crying, but has got a parent who apparently doesn't know how to deal with these types of things. Sure enough, they are parked right next to us. Now, am I bitter because they were in a big SUV in a compact space?
Yes.
Yes, I was. Just a touch, because there were plenty of other spaces. Nevertheless, our car qualified. Theirs didn't. Nevertheless, one of the kiddos that they were trying to deal with was clearly unhappy. Why? Don't know. And yes, I recognize there could be other extenuating circumstances involved. I get that. But as best I could observe, this was a kid who just wanted mom and dad's attention. There were no tears involved, just a lot of... That's
enough.
You see, that would have worked right there, Joey. You just did some old-fashioned parenting. Honey, you need to stop that. That's not the way we behave in public or in private.
I would never call you honey.
If you have a need, Mr. Honey, if you have a need, express it, but we don't act like that. What was this mother doing? Let's use our breathing. Let's breathe. Now you know how to breathe. Let's breathe slowly. That's right. Breathing techniques for parents to get their kids to behave. Ay, gewilte fish, Larry. It's mindfulness. It's making its way everywhere. From The Guardian. This is nothing new, frankly, but nevertheless, a reminder how this Hindu practice, Buddhist practice, is making its way into, well, my parking ramp is where it's making its way. Across the UK, that's the United Kingdom. I did some prep for this program.
Apparently.
There are a growing number of workshops and events in studios, corporate offices, the Natural History Museum, and even Parliament, where MPs and peers have been learning breathing techniques during yoga classes. Well, you don't even need to do the yoga. Apparently, a parent gets a child to behave rightly by getting them to breathe. And apparently, at some point, just passing out. Because, that actually isn't a terrible idea. Let me just jot that down. So, if you can't
Don't do that. People will
else,
believe you.
just keep them breathing until they just get lightheaded and down they go. So just make sure you can catch them. Pretend it's a fake healing revival and just catch them. Speaking of fake healing revivals, did you see the big article in Fox News? There was a huge propaganda piece. I do not know who the in is, what it costs, how this has worked out, but my hunch about a month ago, unmistakable at this point, almost every day in Fox News you see a propaganda piece for Bethel Supernatural School of Healing, Bethel Church. This thing was 5 pages long. It was nothing but they're doing this wonderful thing. They're doing that wonderful thing. They're incredible like this. They're giving to that. And here it is right here. Pastor Bill Johnson on the recipe for revival, how Bethel Church exploded onto the global scene. This is another major trend that we need to be aware of. This one far worse than breathing and mindfulness. This is under the umbrella of Christianity, and this should cause you to be concerned because this is as fringy a movement as you can imagine. And while they may get coverage in Fox News for a reason I don't understand, I haven't seen any R.C. Sproul or John MacArthur study or pieces in the Fox News, but Bethel Church, they're in there constantly. And this thing goes on for 4 pages saying they give this money away. They do this for people. They paid for the police in Redding, California. They've opened up this school. They're doing this event, this conference. It was nothing but look at how wonderful they are. There were a couple of details from the article, though, that I thought were of interest. It begins with a story about a 2-year-old boy healing from a disease in a hospital after hearing a special worship song. Wait a second. If that worship song healed the boy, why is he in a hospital? You see, an actual miracle would be just that, an actual miracle. Full organic healing. You don't need time to recover in a hospital. You pick up your mat and you walk. Nevertheless, just anecdote after silly anecdote, we don't see these faith healers making their way into hospitals, clearing them out. Well, unless, of course, they need their leg lengthened. Then,
Well,
they might be able to do that little parlor trick. Nevertheless, they don't go in and why aren't they healing everybody? If this is God's revival throughout the globe, how come there are any hospitals that are still in business? We should be reading stories right now of hospitals going, we don't know what to do. We're like shopping malls. We've just so fallen out of favor. Nobody comes to the hospital anymore. All of these Christians are standing outside the emergency room, and they're healing people before they even get inside. You don't read those stories, do you? In fact, you don't see one story of a complete, organic, verifiable healing. One. That is why I would like to suggest to those people who are calling for debates on the issue of physical healing these days for Christians, I've got to... There's been enough books written, enough debates have happened. I've got an idea. Let's assemble all of these, the very finest faith healers, and we'll take one guy, let's say Justin Peters, a lovely Christian man, cerebral palsy his entire life. Heal him, and then we can have a conversation about it. Let's just do a little Mount Carmel, unless, of course, your God, small g, is in the bathroom. Quote from Elisha, this would be a complete exposure of the hucksters that take money from people, that build false hopes, tell them that their children can be healed. I just saw a video from Justin Peters. I've seen parents holding their dying children or their diseased children, weeping, hoping that the faith healer would just touch their child, help them. Nothing, because they can't. It's wicked. It's absolutely wicked what they do. Not working for me. Sorry. This type of nonsense should get us very upset. This is the fastest growing form of religion in the world. And most evangelicals will not identify it and call it out. From The Guardian, says Geert de Vlemink, chair of the International Breathwork Foundation. Who knew? Conscious connected breathwork is now reaching the world. Yep. People, I wouldn't be surprised if your Supernatural School of Ministry doesn't have some breathing involved. You want to bet? Want to bet? Want to bet? Want to bet? I'd put money on that. If I weren't a Christian. Quote, people are always seeking to find happiness, joy, real love, and to be healthy. Yes, they are. And Jesus, what do you know? He promises joy, which encompasses happiness, real love, and healthy. That's a future healing, but it's certainly emotional healing. I can't wait to share this with you. Went to Georgia State University. Tried something a little bit different when it came to evangelism. No, I didn't water down the law, didn't water down any of that, but tried to explain that God wants to save people and then heal their emotions and their thinking, rewire their brains so that they can be emotionally healthy. Got to be so careful with this because you don't want to offer that fruit as the reason that people comes to Jesus, but at the same time, You don't want to not let people know that God can heal your bad thinking. That's what sanctification is. So you've got to find that correct balance. I have to tell you something. Not everybody that I talked to did that resonate with, but a number of students it did. Because the world is hurting. And we have a holistic gospel. Don't want to put the fruit before the fruit giver, but nevertheless, to not proclaim God forgives sinners and he heals their emotions and their thinking. That is the message that people need to hear because it actually works, because it's actually true, and it actually has much greater effect than getting lightheaded again. This is Wretched Radio.
Would you please like, subscribe, or share this video so other people can enjoy this professional Christian content?